What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit about the Diablo 2 Resurrected survey that was put out on Reddit. It's basically kind of gauging feedback from the Diablo 2 community on going further with more changes for Diablo 2 Resurrected. So I think it's going to be a pretty interesting video to talk about because I do think that you guys might disagree with some of the opinions that I have. I think it's very important to note that only some changes will be feasible for Blizzard to stick to a 2021 release date, at least in my opinion. Adding a whole bunch of additional endgame content is just, it's not going to happen. So I think that's important to recognize. But a quick reminder for those that don't know, I do stream twice a week on Twitch. I got the link for my Twitch channel, of course, in the description below. If you guys want to stop by my stream, talk about this video or other potential Diablo 2 Resurrected changes, you can always hit me up with a follow. Other than that, guys, hope you enjoy this video. Let's jump in. So there's a couple of key points that I just want to touch on before I jump into some of the proposed changes from this survey. And the first is that I've said this before, I think it is super important that Blizzard prioritizes nailing down the original Diablo 2 in Diablo 2 Resurrected first. Make sure it is absolutely perfect and use that as a foundation for making potential changes in the future. If that means sacrificing some quality of life changes or new content on its release, I'm totally okay with that. Blizzard typically always releases very well-polished games, and I do think that that should be absolutely priority number one, making sure Diablo 2 Resurrected is absolutely amazing on release date. The second point that I want to mention is that some changes that have been proposed in the survey are definitely feasible for a 2021 release date. So, for example, introducing a loot filter, that is something that I do think should be introduced and is feasible for the game releasing in 2021. Something like a brand new Pandemonium event or completely reworking a whole bunch of room words and skills, just going to mess up balancing. I mean, it's just not really viable in my opinion for having Diablo 2 Resurrected by the end of this year. So I do think that some changes can absolutely be introduced for initial release. Others we may have to potentially wait for down the line. And the third and final point or suggestion that I have would be potentially having 3 different ladders. So they've already talked about having a classic ladder and a Lord of Destruction ladder, and I do think that some of the changes like loot filter or arrow quantity, item stacking, that kind of thing could potentially be introduced into a Lord of Destruction ladder. But I think a really neat idea would be to have 3 ladders. So have classic for people that want to play Diablo 2 how it was before the expansion, have a LOD ladder so everyone can play Diablo 2 1.14D with a few other additional quality of life changes like auto gold pickup and just the 3D rendering engine. And then have a third ladder called your modern ladder, which could introduce stuff like a currency tab or stackable items, new Pandemonium event, new hirelings or reworking hirelings, new item changes, rune word changes, balancing, introducing new items, that kind of thing. That could all be on your modern day ladder, so that way you can appeal to the entire Diablo 2 fanbase. Everybody will have a specific type of Diablo 2 that they want to play available to them. So I have in the description below the Reddit survey linked. I'm not going to cover every single possible question and the percentages of yes, no, and maybe because it's just too much to cover in this video. But I do really think that all of the changes can be boiled down into 3 different categories. 1 being quality of life changes, 2 balancing changes, and 3 content changes. I'm just going to rifle through them, kind of give you guys my thoughts, and let me know in the comment section below at any point if you guys agree with me or completely disagree. So starting off with quality of life changes, the first proposed idea was increasing the stash size. We already are significantly bigger from LOD, and we do have a shared stash to really increase the feasibility or the ease of muling items. It's going to be very quick compared to the current state of 1.14D Blizzard on Battle.net, so I think the stash size is completely fine. Number 2 is a charm inventory. This would be very cool to see. I'm betting we're not going to see it, but maybe down the road if they ever introduce that like modern day ladder would be really cool to see. I just doubt we would see it for 2021, although I actually would be all for a charm inventory. The next proposed question was whether or not they should introduce item stacking. It is a very cool idea and concept. It's in Project Diablo 2, a private Diablo 2 server mod that I've been playing a ton lately. I would like to see something like that, although my preferred option would be a currency tab similar to PoE. I think that would be really cool to introduce. It just makes your life more convenient. It's not kind of game breaking or anything like that. It's not a new powerful balance change. It's just something that's going to make life a ton easier, and I just really think that we should see it in Diablo 2 Resurrected in the future, hopefully. Number 4 and number 5 is just unlimited arrow quantity. Yes, this should be a no-brainer. It's very annoying buying arrows with bows on, so just do it. Number 5 is the loot filter. They talked about this in BlizzCon during some of those private panel interviews, and they didn't have any plan to introduce one. I think this, in my opinion, is just an absolutely horrible mistake. It's very simple to introduce a loot filter compared to rebalancing content, introducing new room words, or new Pandemonium event, and it's just an unreal quality of life change that allows people to tailor their Diablo 2 experience and their loot just to how they want to. They should just have a loot filter. It's not game changing, not game breaking. I think it would be relatively a lot less work than like new content, and it's just gonna really please a lot of people. So they absolutely should be introducing a loot filter for Diablo 2 Resurrected on release date. The next big category that I want to talk about is balancing changes. So a lot of people have different opinions. I'm just going to tell you what I think. Again, feel free to let me know if you guys agree or disagree. The first is spell reworking. I am down for this, but only to the extent if this makes sense of working down a skill tree that you always have your late leveling spells like level 24, level 30. They will always be stronger than your level 1, 6, and 12 sort of setup. There is some private server mods that have done a fantastic job of introducing new viable spells, but I just think it's weird when like level 6 spells are super powerful options, and honestly sometimes more, or at least on par with level 30 spells. So for example, with the Fire Druid, it'd be really cool to see Volcano reworked into an extent that it is more powerful than Fissure, but I don't want to see like Firestorm being stronger than Volcano or Armageddon. Again, that's just my personal opinion, but for spell reworking, that's just always the way I've looked at it. Working away from the top of the tree, working away from the bottom to the top of the tree, you should always progressively have more power. The second section to talk about is item changes. Now, again, I have mixed feelings about this. I'm attached with a lot of the items from LOD, but some of the changes that have made in private server mods, they are good. Just some go a little bit too far for my taste, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just an old, bitter Diablo 2 gamer, but I do think that bringing some weaker items up to par with some of the more powerful items just to give you more options would be very good. I don't like the sort of quote-unquote nerfing of the top tier meta items and making them not viable choices anymore. I would just rather see some of the less frequently used items brought up to par in terms of power compared to the more relatively used items. Next up, we have rune word changes. This is, again, I have very similar feelings to item balancing. I don't want to see a complete colossal nerfing of some of the most powerful rune words. I do like my Enigma, I like my Infinity, but it would be cool to see rune words that nobody ever makes, like Wind or Destruction, for example. Again, just bring their par up with the other ones, and I would like to see that versus just complete nuking of like Enigma. And then finally, you have the reworking of hirelings. Again, sounding like a broken record here. I want to see it rebalanced similar to items and rune words. So I would like to see Act 2 hirelings still have Might Auras and Holy Freeze, but then give your Barbarian, your Act 5 hireling a different aura, your Act 1, Act 3, etc., just to make them unviable and on par with everything else. I think it's easy to get caught up in the idea of rebalancing to make stuff that's really strong very weak, but why not just bring up the other choices on par so they're as equally viable? Now, I do think it's important to note that every single change that we just talked about, I don't think we will see it in Diablo 2 Resurrected launch in 2021, or I don't want to see it on the initial release date. Again, I think the priority should be focusing on making sure Diablo 2 Resurrected is as polished as possible, and then down the road, slowly introducing patch updates, or again, the whole new modern ladder, where you can play around with some of the item, rune word, and hireling rebalance changes. And the final big category that I want to cover is content changes. This is a little bit different than balancing changes in terms of it's just entirely new stuff being added. So a brand new Pandemonium event was something that was asked for, engaged in the community feedback survey. I think this is a fantastic idea, something that's, again, difficult to farm. So getting like a new set of keys, combining them for more organs for a different, entirely new Pandemonium event, or some sort of charm that is worthwhile your time of trying to farm, but not overpowered. I don't want to see kind of power creep introduced where you can get 2 different Hellfire torches so you can have like +6 skills. If you wanted to make a new Pandemonium event with something very, very powerful like that, I think it should be only choosing the Hellfire torch or the new introduced torch. So again, new Pandemonium event, new content is really good. Just want to watch out on that power creep that it doesn't become an issue. Shorter ladder resets was also asked in the survey. I think that going down to 3 months might be a little bit too quick, but 6 in its current state, even without duping, if you just have a legitimate economy, 6 is pretty long. It does take longer to gear up in Diablo 2 than, say, Diablo 3, but I think that, 4-month ladder reset might be a good compromise between the two. They also suggested or asked the question about new items or rumored changes. I would like to see some new rumors introduced and new items. I think it's a very easy way of adding some additional content for building different characters, and it's not quite as intense as introducing a whole new endgame mapping content system. So I would like to see this introduced possibly down the road in future patches. And again, for those that don't like the idea of adding like 20 new powerful rune words or think they'll completely throw off the balancing, have that 3-ladder system. So classic, LOD, and modern, and have all of the new rune words on the modern ladder setup. And the last couple of questions that were asked were whether or not it should be easier to respec, if they should eliminate the Neolithag portal, and then if the Cow King death should eliminate your secret cow level. So all 3 of these, I think that I would be okay with having a little bit of an easier respec system. Neolithag portal, yeah, just have it so that he never disappears. That way, if you really want to, you can farm Neolithag, get the Halls of Pain waypoint at level 2, but you can also farm Pindle. It just opens up alternative variety of type of magic finding, and it doesn't do anything game breaking. And then the Cow King death, that's a no-brainer. That should be shut off. Like, why was that even introduced in the first place? I don't know. All 3 of these things, or sorry, all 2 of those things are very easy to change without being game breaking. And then in terms of respecking, I would like to see it be a little bit easier, but not to the extent of like Pluggy where there's infinite respecking. So just slightly up the essence drop rate off of your end game bosses, your end act bosses, and then maybe introduce a second location to farm essences in each act. So maybe pick a super unique in Act 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it's just an additional boss that you can target to farm essences, and then slightly increase the drop rate. So it might only take you an hour to farm your essences to respec instead of, potentially you could farm for like 3, 4, 5 hours if you're unlucky with Bale drops. That's not uncommon. So I definitely would like to see that tip the other way. This is a little bit easier, but not quite to the extent where you can just respec on the fly with no penalty. Well guys, there you have it. That wraps up today's video. To basically sum it up, I'm not against a lot of the proposed changes. I do think some are unrealistic if Blizzard is going to release a polished Diablo 2 Resurrected in 2021. Others would be cool to see in the future, and then I do really think that the 3-ladder system idea of Classic, LOD, and Modern would be a fantastic way to basically appeal to everybody that wants to play Diablo 2. Purists are covered, and then people that want a more modern experience will be able to hopefully get that down the road, and I do think that will extend the longevity of Diablo 2 Resurrected. I'm not sure if Blizzard's plan is to just simply use it as a springboard to Diablo 4, or if they actually want it to be played years down the road. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree or completely disagree. And as always, if you guys could throw a like on this video, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. I post new weekly content on YouTube, and I stream twice a week on Twitch. So a follow on Twitch and a sub on YouTube would be amazing. Other than that, guys, hope you have a fan-frickin-tastic day, and I'll catch you on my next video or live stream. Peace out.